Bitcoin is going up in value, and real estate, when you measure it in Bitcoin terms, is going down.
What if global power wasn't about gold or oil, but Bitcoin? Once dismissed as fringe, Bitcoin is now commanding attention from the world's biggest industries and institutions. Stick around to discover why minds are changing and how Bitcoin may just redefine the future of finance.
Okay, so picture this. You're house hunting, but instead of, looking at your bank balance, you're checking your Bitcoin wallet.
It's a wild thought, right?
Yeah, wild, right?
But that's kind of the future that Swan Bitcoin is laying out in these videos you sent us.
Yeah.
It's a future where Bitcoin doesn't just replace gold. It eats the entire financial system as we know it.
Yeah, they're making some pretty bold claims.
Stocks, bonds, real estate, the whole 9 yards.
So we're going to break it all down in this deep dive, look at their arguments,
Yep.
see what evidence they're presenting,
Right.
and try to figure out what this could actually mean for, our listeners.
Exactly. And they use some really interesting tactics to make their case.
Yeah.
Like, for example, they start by comparing Bitcoin to gold, which is, like the OG safe haven asset.
Right. They bring up Max Kaiser,
Oh, yeah, Max Kaiser.
who's a big Bitcoin bull,
Yeah, Bitcoin maximalist.
and he predicts that Bitcoin's market cap is going to eventually reach or even surpass gold's,
Which is huge.
which is huge.
It's like, what, 13 or 14 trillion dollars?
Yeah, that's a crazy amount of money.
That would mean a massive jump in Bitcoin's value.
Yeah. And here's why that matters to you.
Right.
If you own even just a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin, that could translate into some serious gains.
Absolutely. But Swan Bitcoin isn't just relying on predictions.
Right.
They point out that gold is hitting record highs right now,
Yeah.
but its supply is staying pretty much the same.
So what does that mean?
Well, they argue that this is a sign of weakness in fiat currencies.
Like the US dollar?
Like the US dollar, exactly.
Okay.
And that Bitcoin, as this, decentralized alternative, stands to benefit.
So it's kind of like
Yeah.
you're holding an asset that's designed to increase in purchasing power over time,
Right.
while everything else is slowly but surely losing value because of inflation.
Yeah. It's a really powerful story.
It's a compelling narrative.
And it resonates with a lot of people who are worried about what's happening with their savings.
Yeah, for sure. And then Swan Bitcoin takes it even further.
Oh, yeah.
They start talking about real estate.
Real estate. Okay.
And they argue that a big part of real estate's value comes from its use as a store of value,
Right. Not just its utility.
not just like a place to
Not
live.
just a roof over your head.
And to illustrate that point, they bring in Leon Wim,
Okay.
who is a real estate developer,
Interesting.
but he's also a big Bitcoin advocate.
Okay.
And he basically says that Bitcoin is a superior store of value because of its unique characteristics.
Like what?
Well, think about it. Bitcoin is scarce.
Right. Limited supply.
Only 21 million will ever exist.
Ever.
It's also highly liquid.
Meaning you can easily convert it to cash if you need to.
Yeah, unlike a house, which could take months to sell.
Exactly.
And it's divisible,
You can buy small fractions of a Bitcoin.
which you can't do with a property.
You can't buy half a house.
Right. And they even have this slide in the video that's pretty mind-blowing.
What is it?
It shows that the average U.S. home price in Bitcoin has plummeted from almost 1,000 Bitcoin in 2016 to just 12 Bitcoin in 2024.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
It's a really stark visual.
Yeah, it really drives home the point they're trying to make.
Hey, want our free AI dope top AI tools that we use? Chat below. It's our live Google Sheets packed with over 100 killer tools, video, music, photos, AI voices, productivity, script writing, YouTube hacks, captions, the works. Always growing. Live Google Sheet. Always free. AI, dope top AI tools that we use. Download and chat below. Back to the show.
Bitcoin is going up in value,
Yeah.
and real estate, at least when you measure it in Bitcoin terms, is going down.
Interesting.
So we've got Bitcoin potentially outperforming gold and even disrupting the real estate market.
Right.
But then Swan Bitcoin takes it even a step further.
Okay.
They start suggesting that entire nations might start adopting Bitcoin as a national security strategy.
Now, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, they actually feature clips of some pretty big names in the Bitcoin world talking about this.
Like who?
Well, there's Fred Thiel, who's the CEO of Marathon Digital Holdings.
Okay.
And he argues that countries that hold Bitcoin could operate outside of the traditional global financial system.
That's a big claim.
They could even bypass sanctions.
Wow.
And then we hear from Swan Bitcoin's own CEO, Corey Clipston.
Okay.
And he believes that it's just a matter of time before more nations follow in El Salvador's footsteps
Right.
and start adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets.
So this raises some huge questions.
It does.
Like, what happens to global power dynamics if nations start accumulating Bitcoin?
Yeah. I mean, could we see a shift away from the US dollar as the world reserve currency?
It's a scenario that's both fascinating and kind of unsettling.
It really is.
Imagine a world where geopolitical power is determined not by who has the most gold or oil.
But by who controls the most Bitcoin?
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It kind of does, right? And then they throw in another piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
The Bitcoin hash rate,
The hash rate.
which is basically a measure of the computing power dedicated to securing the Bitcoin network.
Okay.
And it's been steadily rising.
What do they make of that?
Well, Swan Bitcoin suggests that this could mean that countries like China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia are already secretly mining Bitcoin on a large scale.
So if that's true,
It would add weight to their theory that Bitcoin is already playing a role on the geopolitical stage.
even if it's happening behind the scenes,
Hey, you got
it's a
tape.
whole other layer to this story.
So the geopolitical implications are definitely interesting.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back to, the individual investor.
Okay.
What does all this mean for their own financial decisions?
Good question.
Well, that's where Swan Bitcoin's long-term investment strategy comes in.
Right.
They're essentially saying, don't try to time the market.
Okay.
Don't gamble on short-term price swings. Instead, accumulate Bitcoin gradually over time
Okay.
and hold it for the long haul.
So they're betting on Bitcoin's continued growth.
Yeah, and they're encouraging viewers to ride that wave.
It's a high-stakes game of chicken.
It is. Are you going to bet on the traditional financial system?
Or
Are you going to bet on this new, decentralized, and potentially disruptive force called Bitcoin?
that's the question.
That's the question.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
but there's still so much more to unpack.
Oh, yeah. We're just getting started.
So make sure you stick around for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll delve even deeper into the potential implications of Bitcoin eating the world.
I'm excited to see where this goes.
Me too.
It's a question a lot of people are wrestling with right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Swan Bitcoin lays out a really compelling case,
They do.
but are we maybe getting a little ahead of ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, like, imagining Bitcoin eating the world is one thing.
Right.
But what would that actually look like, in our daily lives?
Yeah.
Like, would we be buying groceries with Bitcoin?
Mm.
Would we be getting paid in Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, we're already seeing some early adoption in places like El Salvador,
Right.
where Bitcoin is actually legal tender.
Yeah.
But the idea of it becoming a truly global currency,
Right.
that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah. There are definitely some hurdles to overcome.
There are.
Volatility is still a big concern for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine checking your Bitcoin balance and seeing that your savings have dropped, 10% overnight.
Oof. That's not a good feeling.
Not exactly reassuring.
No, not at all.
So for Bitcoin to become a widely accepted currency, it needs to be more stable.
It does.
People need to feel confident that the value isn't going to, fluctuate wildly.
Exactly. It can't be like a roller coaster ride every day.
And then there's the whole regulatory landscape.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Governments are still trying to figure out how to deal with Bitcoin.
Right.
Some are embracing it.
Some are trying to restrict it.
There's a bit of Wild West out there.
It really is.
So regulation is going to play a huge role in shaping Bitcoin's future.
It will.
It could either stifle innovation or it could foster mainstream adoption.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about volatility and regulation.
Yep.
What about the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining?
Oh, yeah. That's been a major criticism.
All that computing power uses a ton of energy.
It does. It's a legitimate concern.
It is.
The energy consumption of Bitcoin mining is significant,
Yeah.
and we need to find ways to make it more sustainable.
But I've also heard that Bitcoin mining could actually incentivize the development of renewable energy sources.
That's an interesting point.
Some miners are already using solar and wind power.
Right, trying to reduce their carbon footprint.
Exactly.
So that's a potential silver lining.
Yeah, if Bitcoin mining can drive innovation in renewable energy,
Yeah,
that could be a really positive outcome for the environment.
it could be a win-win.
So it sounds like Bitcoin's future is still very much up in the air.
It does.
It's a lot of potential,
A lot of potential.
but also a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, for sure.
So what should people be thinking about as they kind of navigate this new financial landscape?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed
Okay.
and to be critical of the information that you encounter.
Right?
There's a lot of hype surrounding Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of misinformation.
Definitely.
So you need to be able to separate fact from fiction.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement.
It is, especially when you hear these bold predictions about, Bitcoin changing the world.
Yeah.
But it's crucial to understand the risks as well.
It's a high risk, high reward situation.
Absolutely.
So how do we make sense of all this?
That's a good question.
Where do we even begin to figure out whether Bitcoin is something that we should be paying attention to?
Well, first and foremost, you need to educate yourself.
Okay.
There are tons of resources available online.
Yeah.
Articles, videos, podcasts, even entire courses dedicated to Bitcoin.
But with so much information out there, how do you know what to trust?
That's a great question. I would recommend starting with reputable sources,
Okay.
like industry publications, academic journals, and well-established experts in the field.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
No, absolutely.
Engage with the Bitcoin community.
Yeah.
Join online forums.
Right.
Talk to people who have experience in this space.
The Bitcoin community is very active and welcoming.
Yeah.
There are many people willing to share their knowledge and insights.
Okay, so let's say someone has done their research.
Okay.
They're intrigued by Bitcoin. What are some key takeaways they should keep in mind?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we're witnessing a financial revolution in real time.
Wow.
Bitcoin is challenging the status quo and forcing us to rethink our fundamental assumptions about money and value.
It's like we're standing on the edge of a new frontier.
Right.
We don't know exactly what lies ahead, but we know it's going to be different from anything we've seen before.
It's both exciting and a little bit scary.
Yeah.
It's an incredible opportunity to learn to adapt and to potentially benefit from this historic transformation.
Right.
But it also comes with risks and uncertainties.
So how do we navigate this uncharted territory? What's the best approach for someone who wants to be a part of this potential revolution?
Well, I think the key is to approach it with a balance of curiosity and caution.
Okay.
Be open to the possibilities, but also be aware of the risks.
Right, sure.
Don't jump in head first without understanding what you're getting into.
It's like anything new and potentially transformative.
Right.
You need to do your due diligence, weigh the pros and cons, and make informed decisions.
Exactly.
Decisions that align with your own financial goals and risk tolerance.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
Bitcoin might be a great investment for one person,
Yeah.
but completely unsuitable for another.
It all depends.
It all depends on your individual circumstances and your understanding of the technology and the market.
So it's not just about understanding Bitcoin itself.
Right.
It's also about understanding yourself,
Exactly.
your financial goals, your risk appetite, your overall comfort level with new and emerging technologies.
Self-awareness is crucial in any investment decision.
Yeah.
But especially when you're dealing with something as volatile and unpredictable as Bitcoin.
One thing that really strikes me about this whole conversation is how Bitcoin challenges our assumptions about money. We're so used to thinking of it as something tangible, something backed by governments.
It's a paradigm shift for sure.
It is.
Bitcoin is decentralized digital, and it operates independently of any central authority.
Right.
That's a radical departure from traditional finance.
And it makes you wonder what other assumptions we're clinging to that might be outdated or even completely wrong.
Interesting.
What if this is just the tip of the iceberg?
Right. Yeah.
The beginning of a much larger technological and societal transformation.
That's the really exciting and perhaps a bit unsettling part of all this.
It is.
We're venturing into uncharted territory.
Yeah.
The rules of the game are changing, and we're all figuring it out as we go along.
It's like we're explorers setting sail for a new world.
I like that analogy.
We have some maps and some tools,
Yeah.
but we don't really know what we're going to find or what dangers we might encounter.
And that sense of exploration and discovery is what drives a lot of people in the Bitcoin space.
Makes sense.
It's about pushing boundaries, challenging conventions, and building a new financial system from the ground up.
It's almost like a social experiment on a global scale.
It is.
Can a decentralized digital currency really work?
Right.
Can it create a more equitable and accessible financial system?
Those are the big questions.
Only time will tell.
But the mere fact that we're asking these questions, that we're having this conversation, is a testament to Bitcoin's impact.
I agree.
It's forcing us to confront the limitations of our current systems and to imagine new possibilities.
It's a reminder that the future is not predetermined. We have the power to shape it, to create the world we want to live in.
Absolutely.
And whether or not Bitcoin ultimately succeeds, it's already sparked a movement, a shift in consciousness that's likely to have a lasting impact.
I think that's a really important point.
So as we continue to navigate this rapidly evolving landscape,
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to remain curious, to stay informed, and to engage in thoughtful dialogue about the future we want to create.
I completely agree.
And if you want another AI dope deep dive, check this next video and ask yourself, how lucky are we to live in these AI dope times?